Welcome to Death and Aliens, an in-depth look at horror and sci-fi TV from two cousins who vaguely know what they're doing. I'm MK.
And I'm Monica.
And, this week, how was this week for you?
I got my wisdom teeth pulled, and I was a bitch to everyone I knew, so everyone had a fun time with me while I barely remembered half the experience.
Your face is still swollen, and it makes me laugh.
Yeah, I have a slight swelling down on this cheek, and every time I smile, I look stupid. But, healing is going great. It was fun. I've just been eating ice cream and pudding. I've moved on to solid foods. I've been chewing on this side of my face because I actually can. But other than that, it's just been a lot of nothing. And
I started work this week. I mean, I worked 1 3-hour shift, and I probably won't work another shift until August, but at
least it was something.
Yeah.
Got you excited.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah,
I literally did nothing.
We all hung out on Thursday. We got Chick-fil-A. You guys got to, if you saw the Instagram video, you actually got to see my boyfriend, which is pretty cool. He's a cool guy. He wasn't mad. He was just really tired that night.
Yeah.
I want to clarify.
Also, there probably won't be a lot of footage in this episode of us watching the episode because step 1, we watched it way too late and we both were zombies.
Mm-hmm.
Step 2, my camera
just quit.
Died halfway through, so there's a full video of Monica and Cody watching the video and 20 minutes of me watching it.
Yeah, and
honestly, I don't want to do that much editing work for this bitch.
Yeah, please don't. I literally sat there, I was like my face was just falling asleep. I was so tired. That was the first day I had after my...
Yeah, that was the first day you left the house after your surgery.
My teeth got pulled, and I was up from 8 in the morning on the go all day, and then we came back and I was just ready to fall asleep, and I was like, son of a bitch, we still gotta watch this shit.
Yeah. Next week we will have an exciting Father's Day edition of Death and Aliens, where we will have some guest hosts.
AKA the man who made me and the man who made her.
My dad has vocally guested on this podcast before, but
yeah,
you'll get to see his beautiful face. It looks like mine.
And you'll get to see my dad's face, and don't say it looks like mine. No. Okay, listen. I know why I look like a low dick, but I look more like my brothers than I do solely my dad.
Well, your dad looks like Eggman now that he shaved his head, so he doesn't really look like anybody.
True. Very true. My dad likes to pride himself and thinks that he looks like Tom Hanks.
He looks like Will Ferrell.
He looks weird.
But if you had to put Tom Hanks or Will Ferrell, yes. It would be Will Ferrell.
But now that he has the bald head and the Jeffrey Dahmer glasses, he just looks like he's have you ever seen those weird indie, and you probably haven't, but there's this one called 14 cameras or 14 tapes or whatever, and it's this weird ass guy who's bald and has the Jeffrey Dahmer glasses, and he puts cameras in Airbnbs and watches people back on them. The movie's messed up. My dad's not weird like that, but it's just the vibe. I'm like, David, grow your hair back or have a beard. Don't have hair nowhere on your face besides your eyebrows. You would look like you're gonna kill somebody. That if you're taking the hair off here, have it migrate. I'm like, he has too much surface area to have it be completely bare.
I'm so sorry. I know you actually listen to our podcast, David.
Sorry, Dad. Love you. I'll literally bully him on the podcast.
I mean, me too, but I bully him when he's allowed to defend himself. I don't like to bully him when he's not there.
Oops. Sorry, Dad.
But yeah, so did we do anything other than go to the mall this week?
Literally nothing. The only exciting things I think happened to the two of us were when we worked together.
I'm trying to think. Oh, I saw a lot of my family this week.
Yeah. I saw Cody, I do all the time. Yeah. I kept calling my mom an asshole when I was on this shit after I got my wisdom teeth out, and if you also saw the Instagram this week, there was a video of me crying and eating mashed potatoes, which is iconic. But there was a full 11-minute video of me just calling my mom an asshole and a bitch and telling her to get me my ice cream. I was not friendly. My mom wanted to quit.
And this is why I know Monica can't do drugs. Because that's the kind of drug addict she would be.
Yeah. We stay away from drugs. And I normally have a really short tood, and not like I feel like I don't smoke cigarettes, but I vape, and having to be weaned off of that already was inhibiting me a little bit with my temper.
I remembered the other exciting thing that happened this week. The Bachelorette came back.
Of course, I don't watch it.
I do, obviously. And if you are a Bachelorette fan, Trey, not Greg. And the internet is obsessed with Greg, and I don't get it because he kind of looks like a kindergarten teacher. Trey, thank you. That's all I have to say.
How does one look like a kindergarten teacher?
He just does.
It's just like that vibe.
Yeah.
Like how my dad looks like a serial killer.
Yeah.
Got it.
So this week, we are talking about Kolchak, the Night Stalker, episode 4, the vampire.
Now, the one thing that I will say before we go into reading this is my favorite episode when it comes to lines, but least favorite episode that we've watched. In terms of technicality things. And in way that characters were portrayed. Which you've heard me bitch about it 1,000 times.
Yeah, no, but that's only one character.
True, but...
Well, let's get into it. The victim of a vampire is accidentally resurrected outside of Las Vegas, and she makes her way to the City of Angels, where she becomes part of the world's oldest profession.
Is being a sex worker really the world's oldest profession?
Have you never heard the Devil Wears Prada song, Prostitution is the world's oldest profession, and I, dear madam, am a professional?
No. I know you're going to be like, and you're a pop punk and have a fucking
Right.
internet. Yeah, I know. I've heard of Devil Wears Prada before, and when I hear it, I think of Meryl Streep, and when Cody hears it, he thinks of the band. We're very similar, but very different.
I appreciate both fully, but I think of the band because...
Yes. That's fair. That's fair.
It came out on October 4th, 1974, which was exactly 30 years before my sister was born.
Ooh.
Just kidding. 31. She was born in 95. I'm an idiot. Also, that's only 25 years, not 35.
You said 30.
I did. I can't.
And then you said 31. Now we're back to 25.
21. 21 is what I meant. I didn't mean 25. I can't count. It was rated 8.1 stars, which is the highest rating so far, which is why I was interested that you said that. It is. I agree. But also, that's because the dialogue in this episode was phenomenal.
That's why I like it. It was hard to
also, we won't get to trivia till the end, but there are no goofs on the IMDb page.
Good.
So, like, there's obviously trivia and stuff, and there's some connections and stuff, but there are no goofs, which means that technically, like, not in the way of comparing it to 2020, but, like, technically, it was
a flawless
episode so far, like, compared to the other ones.
Yes.
Or at least according to the IMDb
Critically
viewers.
acclaimed, yes.
Yeah. It was directed by Don Weiss, who is kind of a powerhouse. He started directing in 1951. He directed some episodes of The Andy Griffith Show, the original Batman TV show, MASH, Hill Street Blues, like everything.
Nice.
The teleplay was by David Chase, who wrote episode 2. And the story was by Bill Stratton, who wrote some TV, not a lot, but mostly he wrote a bunch of Hawaii Five-0 episodes.
Okay.
Our guest stars. I first wrote down only the ones that I knew, but then I went back and, like, actually looked at the credits and looked at everyone who was credited high enough to be in the opening credits of the show, not the closing credits. Mm-hmm. So, William Daniels. William Daniels has 123 and counting credits on his IMDb. He is everyone's grandpa. If you don't know who William Daniels is, you're an idiot, and actually you do know who William Daniels is, because William Daniels is famous for many, many things, including being the voice of Kit in Knight Rider, originating the role of John Adams in 1776, the Broadway musical, and most importantly, being Mr. Feeney. Literally, we were looking at the credits, and his name came up, and I looked at my dad, and I said, "Is that?" He said, "Yes." And I said,
She got very excited.
I did. I started crying a little bit. I love him. He played Lieutenant Jack Mateo, the head of the LAPD. Then there was John Duchette. I could not even get through his entire IMDb because there are 287 acting credits.
Holy crap.
He was acting from 1939 until 1987.
Wow.
50 years, 287 television credits. He played the police chief for the little town that was north of LA that was only in that one scene, the guy with the dog.
Okay.
So he wasn't even a big role, but he is so famous that he was second billing for guest stars for that one scene.
Damn.
Yeah. Suzanne Charney, she
was our little realtor lady, right?
No. She was Catherine Rollins, the vampire. She doesn't have a very big credit history. She did a lot of TV, but never more than 2 episodes for any one show.
Now, when I don't ever want to bash. I am not an actress, and I've never been in Hollywood and never been on TV shows, so I can't talk shit. I'm not a professional. But her performance is the reason why this episode was so hard for me to watch. And that could have been simply directors' way of telling her to do it.
I do think it is unfair to ask someone to act with their face in the dark.
Exactly. And also, only act with her face. She had not one single speaking line.
Which, it makes sense. Janos had no speaking lines in his vampire episode either.
He acted with his face, but they didn't make him look like a sociopath.
That's because they never showed his whole face.
True. But she looked normal. They just threw fangs in her and made her...
Well, and they talked about why they did that. They talked about, the other girl talked about how she had too much makeup on and everything. So, it was a risk to try to show her more than they showed the vampire in the first episode. Because, granted, if they had tried to pull the same camera techniques as the first episode, we would have had a problem with that as well, and about it being a copycat. So they had to do something different. And also, she's young and pretty.
Yeah.
And that was part of her appeal as a vampire, was because she was luring people in by being a prostitute because she was young and pretty. So, I get it. I don't particularly think she's the world's best actress, but I do not blame her.
Yeah. And that was just why, sitting through this episode was not the most fun experience, because every time her face would come on screen and she'd make that stupid fucking face, I'm I want to punch it. And it's nothing against her. It's just, do something else. You can be a vampire without looking like a cartoon drawing of one. And that's...
Again, 1974.
I know, but they still made it work with Janos, and there's been other, at this point, Dark Shadows was out, and they still made that shit work.
But it's a different kind of vampire.
Fair, but still, you can make it work without it looking too cartoony.
The next guest star is Jan Murray. He played Ichabod Grace.
I just love that sounds low-key like Ichabod Crane, but it's not.
The owner of Grace's catering service. He was in a lot of good movies, including History of the World Part 1.
Oh, really? I knew his face looked familiar.
The Fall Guy and Thunder Alley. Those are his top 3 movies. So, then we have Larry Storch. He was the least prominent of our guest stars. He played the Swede, the guy who told Kolchak about the murders in Vegas.
Oh, okay.
He is hella famous for lots of things, both in person and voice acting. Mm-hmm. He was the first, I think the first, if I'm not correct on it being the first, someone will correct me, the first ever animated Joker voice in the 1968 Batman Superman cartoon.
Wow, that's actually really cool.
So, hella famous. And then our last guest star is Miss Kathleen Nolan. She played Kate McCoy on The Real McCoys. That was really her only, long role. But, The Real McCoys was on for a long time. Mm-hmm. So, That is what she is
And
known for.
she was the real estate lady.
She was the real estate.
I
yes.
loved her.
I loved her.
She was like one of Kolchak's Kolchak's like random girl sidekicks that he manages to just get involved in every single case. That was
He's a ladies' man.
like, but she wasn't stupid. She was naive.
She was stupid.
I think she was more naive than stupid. I don't think she wasn't. There, trust me, there have been some that have been straight up just fucking dumb.
But here's the thing. She was different because she was the first time that Kolchak has had a female counterpart in the episode who was actually, like, not including Carol Ann's character,
Yes.
but she was the first one who wasn't, like, a sex worker or a dancer. She was actually meant to be, like, semi his equal, only she was portrayed as so much dumber than him that, like, I don't think it's fair to say naive. I think she was supposed to just be stupid.
Which sucks because she was one of my that we've seen the counterparts, like all the ones that he's worked with are normally really good. There was something about her. She had like a spunk to her where she put on a more professional.
She was spunky. She like wasn't subservient or like flirty with Kolchak.
Yeah.
But she also was clearly lost.
Yeah.
Part of that was also Kolchak's ability to communicate in this episode was at an all-time low.
Yeah. Yeppers.
So we start the episode with Kolchak on a plane narrating what is going on. Now, I found this to be useful only in the sense that it said, "Hello, this episode will not be taking place in Chicago."
Yeah. Which, the thing is that in the next scene, would have told us that anyway, because they had us go back to Chicago to have him find out that he's going to Los Angeles.
Right. That's not actually the next scene, but that's the next Kolchak scene.
Yeah.
So what he's narrating is the events that are happening
on the outskirts of Vegas.
On the outskirts of Vegas. My note says, vampire resurrection and tire change.
Oh, yes. And here's the thing. When we first watched this, this girl she's going through a construction zone. She gets a flat tire.
And the only reason it's important that it's a construction zone, and I didn't notice the first time, I only noticed it the second time watching through, that the vampire resurrection happened because the construction site had dug up the ground where they were putting new road, and because of that, the vampire wasn't buried deep enough anymore, and that's why she was able to pop out.
Exactly. And so she hits this, she gets a flat tire, and this woman by herself gets
Flight attendant.
In heels.
In her heels and skirt, in her air stewardess outfit.
With her beautiful red nail polish, mind you. Gets out of the car, and she's like, okay, time to go change my tire my fucking self. And I was like, yes, bitch.
I don't know how to change
Me neither. And to have that being shown in a show that was made in the 70s,
And she cuts her finger on the tire iron,
and just goes,
literally saying this out loud, connected a thought in my head that I hadn't had before that makes so much sense. She's bleeding, and then the hand pops out of the ground.
Oh my god.
Yeah, literally just put that together as I said it out loud. So she accidentally resurrected the vampire. But the important part about her cutting her finger, I guess, is that it resurrects the vampire. But to me, it was this girl, nails, hair, hips, heels, whole 9 yards, cuts her finger and is gushing blood, and then looks at it and immediately goes back to changing the tire.
Yeah. And then, because then when I first saw it, I was like, I like how they're trying to show her changing a tire, but they use gravel to hide the fact that she has to change this tire. But then in actuality, the gravel comes out of focus.
The gravel was not there to
and it
hide
was
the tire.
these little hands doing this underneath the ground, like.
Yeah, no, I knew. As soon as I saw the weird angle, I was like, oh, popping out of the ground.
And that was actually a very, very cool shot. And she did trip when she started to run away when she saw the flailing hands coming out from under the dirt. But the thing is, she got back up and she continued to run. Like, this is the most badass woman I have ever seen in a horror TV show, movie of any kind. She just knew what she had to do.
Props.
And this was in the 70s. Thank you.
Thank you. She had final girl energy.
Really, truly.
Although Monica thinks that Kolchak has final girl energy, and I think he would be the first one to die.
Because see, sometimes
We're gonna put that as a poll on Instagram. Is Kolchak a
A
final girl, or is he gonna die first? That's coming out to you guys soon.
Expect it.
Then we go back to the INS office in Chicago, where the Swede is there. He has a name that he goes by now that is not the Swede, but I do not remember it.
Yeah, me neither.
And I was writing notes in shorthand, so like half my notes just have the letter K when I'm talking about Kolchak, so like believe me, I wasn't writing names. Half of my notes about William Daniels' character say Feeney instead of his character's name.
There you go.
So the Swede is telling Kolchak about the deaths that are trailing between Vegas and LA. So like, there's a bunch of missing people in Vegas, and there's all these deaths that are looking real sketchily similar to Janos's deaths in Vegas, but they are like spaced out evenly on the road between Vegas and LA.
Yeah.
And then Tony walks into the office, and the greatest scene.
I love this because we got some nice Vincenzo dialogue in here. We got some nice Kolchak doing the best manipulation technique I've ever seen a man pull off.
Kolchak literally conned them so hard.
And it's like Kolchak, is being Kolchak, pretending he doesn't want to go do this case in Los Angeles that Tony
We all know he obviously... Because, okay, so they get a note over the wire. Updike is like, there's this guru who's a 15-year-old boy who's getting married in Vegas, and somebody wants us to send somebody out there to write about it. What?
Los Angeles, not Vegas.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. Somebody wants us to send somebody out there to write about it, and Vincenzo's like, why the actual F would I write a story about a 15-year-old guru getting married? Who cares?
Yeah.
I'm Vincenzo in this moment. Who cares?
Yes.
And so then Updike starts talking about how important transcendental meditation is, and like, honestly, that little peek into Updike's character
Explains a lot.
Love it. So then Kolchak is like, no, Updike would be really good at this job. Like, it'd be so good for him. You've read all of these books, right? And Updike's like, well, no, like I've only read one of them. He goes, oh, well, I'm sure that's enough. I'm sure that's enough. You can do it. And Vincenzo's like, Kolchak, you're going to LA, and he's like, no, I can't. And like basically reverse psychology's Vincenzo into forcing him to get the chick to LA so he can investigate the vampire murders.
Yup. Also, my jaw's really starting to act up, so I'm gonna be talking a little bit slower, maybe not as much.
Okay. Then we get the vampire attack, where at first
we thought it was like turning into a weird sex scene, but then.
And at first, I thought the guy was attacking the girl.
Mm-hmm.
Nay, I say.
Mm-mm.
It was the other way around.
It just got really weird.
It got really, really
like
weird.
The sexual energy that's in some of these scenes where it doesn't need to be, quite odd.
So basically, the vampire attacks her sister and her sister's husband after viciously making out with her sister's husband. Did you catch that?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was weird. Real weird. Didn't like that implication.
Nope.
So then Kolchak gets to the hotel that he is staying at in LA and turns the radio on. And obviously, the radio is talking about the dead bodies. So what does he do?
Goes to look.
Goes follows the dead body news. And this is when he goes to see John Duchette's victim.
Mm-hmm.
And we figure out that this car has been stolen from Vegas, driven all the way to LA, but dun dun dun, the windows are taped on the inside.
With black paper, and in my head, when Kolchak makes a point of this in a later scene, in my head went construction paper. And I was like, I get it, to keep the sun out. How the fuck did she see when she was driving, though? Sun's still gonna come in through that fucking windshield, whether you like it or not.
A lot of times in the 70s, people had those tinfoil things that you put in the window that reflect the light back out so the inside of the car doesn't get too hot. So probably during the day when she was sleeping, she probably had the tinfoil thing on the regular window, and then the side windows had to be taped because...
Oh, and then she just would drive at night. Because I was thinking about that. I'm like, how does fucking bitch see? But that also makes perfectly sense.
That is an assumption that I am guessing because of a missing piece of information.
That really isn't that important.
It's really not important at all. But it's a fair question, but I think that is the correct answer. So then he does his little exploration into the dead bodies, which causes him to be late for his appointment to interview the little child guru, which is the whole point of being in LA in the first place.
That's what gets to meet our lovely little sidekick chick.
Yes. So he goes to this house and meets Faye. She's a real estate agent selling the house because the guru is leaving LA. And there was some really great lines
about how when he would say INS, she thought he said
oh yeah,
IRS.
no, but before that, even when he's talking to the guru's like handler person, and the guru is like, the handler guy is like, yes, but like you were late or whatever, and he was like, blah blah blah, like you have to be on time, and Kolchak's like, okay, well when can I talk to him? He's like, in time, I'm sure, and just
yeah, and he said he called him his observant master or something like that, with some fancy ass word, and then this man is definitely older than this 15-year-old boy and calling him his master. Like, excuse me, no 15-year-old would have that much fucking power. Get out of my face. Sorry.
Monica has clearly never deeply studied into the Mahatmas of the Buddhist religion.
I really haven't, and that is very true, so like I do apologize. But I've also been on this really weird kick lately that like, fun story, side story that literally holds no ground. I went to Target yesterday, and I was with Allie and her daughter, and there was this like maybe 9-year-old girl. I almost kicked a fucking 9-year-old's teeth in. We were shopping, and I was like grabbing stuff, and she came around and like saw me talking to Sophie, and I saw her turn away, and she went and like turned around the corner, and I was about to beat this little bitch's ass. I'm ready to square up with kids all week.
So
I'll do it.
In Buddhist principles, they very, very heavily believe in reincarnation.
Okay.
And often to become a teacher, a guru, a Mahatma, you have to be either reached or reaching nirvana. Which means that even though this kid is 15...
He still knows
even though he's 15, yes, even though he's 15, if he has reached nirvana and is going to fully go to paradise when he is done with this life, people who are part of that religion who would follow him as a teacher would believe that despite being 15, this is not his first life on earth, so he is more wise.
That's fair.
So, like, is it weird? Yes, but like if you culturally and religiously understand what they believe, it is not weird, but that actually plays into what Faye freaks out about. So when Kolchak tells her that he works for INS, when he's in Chicago and he says INS, everybody knows the newspaper.
Yeah.
Outside of Chicago, nobody knows what the newspaper is. Like, that would be like if you like were walking around saying, I work for the Niagara Falls Reporter.
Yeah.
They'd be like, the who?
Exactly.
Right. So, so she, when he says she works for the INS, she starts freaking out about, like, him not paying taxes and the IRS being after him, and it's not his fault that his followers want to give him money, and he didn't ask for this life, he's just enlightened, and blah, 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 and she goes off. But, like, again, that's culturally, if you were going to a teacher, you would give them offerings so that they would use the money to feed the poor or get more material, and obviously we kind of can gather from the lavish house and everything and the wedding and all of that this kid is really not necessarily a true, like, I mean, think about it. When you hear the word Mahatma, who do you think of?
Don't ask me.
Okay. George is correct. Gandhi. Gandhi is the most famous Mahatma. His real name is not Mahatma. That is his title.
Yeah.
So when people say Mahatma Gandhi, they're calling him teacher.
Yes.
Obviously, Gandhi, also not a perfect person, did a lot of really shitty things in all actuality, but he lived a life of poverty. He was, like, didn't eat. He, like, led these nonviolent movements, and obviously Some of the things he did were not good. Human beings. But a kid who is 15 and moving to LA to get married and staying in multiple mansions and buying them and then immediately selling them again, not exactly living by Buddhist teacher principles.
Yeah.
But in Faye, again, I think she's dumb because I think she believes him. That's my other issue with her.
Mhm.
She's defending that it's not his fault people want to give him money.
Yeah.
Which I guess is technically true.
Yeah.
Like, the church can't be held responsible for how much money people give to the church.
Yeah.
They can be held responsible for what they do with the money. But, like, if you're going to church and you're giving offerings or, like, donations to churches, the church is not responsible for what you did with your money.
Yeah.
So, like, that's Faye's point, which I kind of get.
Mm-hmm.
But also, it was really played for laughs because she thought that he said the IRS, but he said the INS. And so, like, I'm reading a lot of social commentary into a moment that was, like, supposed to be funny.
Yeah.
Which, probably, I'm not wrong.
You probably aren't.
Because a lot of times, especially in older shows, the social commentary is very... It's not as in your face as more modern shows.
Yes.
So, I'm probably correct. But anyway... We also find out that Faye wanted to be a journalist, but then she got divorced and had a terrible life, and now she's a real estate agent. Mm-hmm. Which, light bulb in Kolchak's head, she is obsessed with this guru guy
She can write
and wants to be a journalist. She can write the article. I can continue to look for vampires.
Yeah.
My dude.
Kolchak out here just, like, doing what the hell ever.
So he's driving Faye back to his hotel where his typewriter is so she can type up this story. And over the radio, we hear that Lieutenant Mateo is holding a press briefing. Get this. At the scene of the crime.
I will say, Detective Mateo.
Lieutenant
Mateo. He was, honestly, his lieutenant really wasn't bad. Like, there were points where you know he wanted to believe Kolchak, but he just fucking couldn't.
Oh, he was my favorite cop so far.
Yeah.
And not only because of who he
played, but, like, it's like he genuinely wanted to believe him, but, like, his integrity just could not let him.
Yeah. But also, I don't really get... There was a lot of things that they did that were weird, that were like, well, that's Hollywood for you. And it was like, no, that's actually just weird.
Yep.
So they hold this police briefing, and obviously Kolchak interrupts it and starts asking questions and doing the Kolchak stick.
But his questions were the same as basically all the other reporters.
That's the thing. My next note is that the other reporters are actually not dumb. Because the other reporters are actually also like,
very
no,
confused.
but like, if that's true, why is this here? And why did this happen? And
poking holes in their story. That
right. So basically, the cover story is that this Satanist cult
always goes back to Satanist cults and blood draining when it comes to vampires.
So the Satanist cult killed the people to use their blood for a blood ritual, human sacrifice thing. And the one reporter lady was like, why didn't they just, like, take them home? Like, you found these Satanist guys at their own house.
Mm-hmm. Why didn't they just take the bodies and do the shit there? Why do it in a very conspicuous spot that you could get caught on with how long this suction device took to extract blood?
But I will admit that his answer was the best so far, because unlike getting tongue-tied or telling someone they were lying, he literally goes, they're Satanists, they're deranged, they don't make sense, why would their reasons make sense? And I was like,
that's fair.
Actually, no, because a lot of times when, like, people who actually do, like, murder people and blame it on worshiping Satan, they do some fucked up stuff.
Yeah.
And it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Also, not just worshiping Satan. Obviously, there have been a lot of murders in the name of religion on all kinds of religion.
Yep. That they normally do the absolute extreme to cause the most confusion and shit like that.
Or, like, I was listening to a podcast recently, it's probably a Bailey Sarian video, TBH, about this guy who killed his whole family because they were being, like, not Christian enough, so he killed them to save them from continuing to go down the path of, like, evil. But then he
Weird.
didn't kill himself. He changed his name and ran away and, like, moved.
That's not very Christian of you, sir.
Right. So he wrote a letter to his pastor, basically like a confession almost, being like, I did it to save them, but then continued to just be like, fuck y'all and leave.
Yeah.
So obviously Satan is not the only religion that has done shitty things.
Yep.
But think about it, it's the 70s.
Yeah.
Blaming things on Satanism was
Satan
like...
and witches. It goes... Those two.
Well, because
Evil
then they
bad
also
things.
call the guys the demonic... They call it a demonic cult of Satan worshippers, and then later call them warlocks. So they
Yeah.
are blaming both Satan and witches.
Yeah. And that's what you're... And, like, I've talked about it openly on the podcast multiple times. I believe in witchcraft. I fucking love it. It does great stuff for me when it comes to mental health and meditating. I love it. And we've talked about this on the podcast before when it comes to how they portray certain religions in media.
Yeah.
And, like, I love that type of stuff. I love the aesthetic. I love the way, like, how people who practice that religion they're very open, and there's not, like, a rule book to follow, so it's more open to interpretation.
Yeah, but again, it's not all people. It's
Yeah.
like, it's just like with everything. Like, I am a very devout Christian. Have I ever wanted to kill someone in the name of Jesus?
No.
No. Have other people killed people in the name of Jesus?
Yep.
Yes. Like, it's a, are you fucked up in the head, or are you a normal human?
Yeah.
These guys who worship Satan are actually just normal people who are getting scapegoated because we don't believe in the supernatural in 1974.
Exactly, because, like, ooh, no, vampires? No way, Jose. I like how I say it like that's, like, a real fucking thing.
I once dated someone who told me that his ex was a vampire
Excuse
and,
me?
fully believed.
That means that she must have at least bitten him once. She must have sucked on him. And not in that other way. Well, maybe in that other way. I don't know how the blood was drawn, but it was drawn. Because how can you sit there and believe that your girlfriend is a vampire without having some sort of proof? Like, did she bite you? Did she drink your blood? Does she have HIV now? Does she... Because that's how you... If you... Is it HIVs where you can, like... If you, like, cross-contaminate blood, you can get HIV?
Only if the other person already has HIV.
I'm an idiot. Don't listen to me. I'm sorry. That probably was a little insensitive. But...
Yeah, no, you cannot catch HIV from coming in contact with blood that doesn't already have HIV.
Okay. But my point being said, it's still very unsanitary and very unhealthy.
Well, yes,
if
it's
she-
disgusting.
if
I
she's
didn't
gonna
say it
s-
wasn't gross.
if she's
It's
gonna
just not
suckle-
how you get HIV.
Is she just gonna, like, suckle on this dude's hand? Did she just really like Twilight? Did she just really want to be Alice Cullen?
I don't know. I don't know who she is.
I have questions now. This is interesting information.
Not my problem.
I think you need to text your friend and be like, my cousin.
My friend?
Didn't you say it was your friend?
No, I said it was my ex.
Oh, never mind.
Not texting anybody. That's why I was also like, what the fuck are you talking about HIV for?
Oh, boy.
So Kolchak goes back to his hotel room, and Faye is in there writing the article, and his phone has apparently been ringing nonstop. So he pretends he is
Sleeping near an airport? That sounds like a shaver.
and makes a lot of noise with the shaver and a towel over the phone, and completely gaslights Tony.
Wow. That's really cute.
I laughed.
That's very funny.
But what I really laughed the most at in that scene was Kolchak's explanation of language.
I was very confused.
So, I'm a nerd. I'm also an English teacher, so, like, but no, so Kolchak was saying that, like, so the girl asked which its you use in the sentence, oft times it loses its charm. And he was like, oft times? Could we not?
Mhm.
And then he was like, how many more off times do you have in the article, or naries? And she was like, well, there's one nary in there. And he's like, yeah, like, scratch that. And she was like, why? And he said, it went out with methinks. Which basically means nobody talks like that anymore, you cuckoo.
Yeah.
But I laughed a lot. So then, when he, then on the radio, he hears, because he's got his police scanner radio, and he hears that Lieutenant Mateo has gone back to the scene of the crime, even though they've supposedly already arrested people.
Mm-hmm.
So he tells Faye, just send the article, I don't need to proofread it, I trust you, and goes to find Mateo. And then we have a really great scene of the two of them fighting about the vampires. Mm-hmm. And, like, really great dialogue. Like, by far.
My favorite line in that scene is Mateo's like, I decided to join the police force so I can meet interesting people. I was like, that's a really weird fucking reason to join the police force.
My favorite line was, are you trying to tell me Amelia Earhart should be a vampire?
Like, the dialogue in this episode was really good.
Yeah.
Really good.
But, basically, the police officer is like, get out. Mm-hmm. Leave this town. Leave your stupid questions. We don't want you here. So, Kolchak goes in the hallway and finds the building manager and uses the whole INS confusion to, make him think he works for the federal government and get information out of him. That was funny.
Yeah, and the actor who played the building manager, he was really good in that scene as well.
At the end, Mateo comes back outside of the apartment, and so Kolchak runs away, and Mateo asks the building manager if he told him anything, and he said, I didn't tell him anything, and he didn't know anything.
he was, like, very proud of himself, even though he just spilled the beans on every single ounce of information that he told police.
Facts. So then we see a clip of the vampire getting hired as a prostitute by Mr. Ichabod Grace, who has the most dope sports coat I've ever seen.
It puts, I think I told Mark, I was like, this puts Kolchak's seersucker suit to shame.
It was pretty cool.
It's like if
Dorothy's... It was not as nice as Sweet Sticks.
Oh, yeah. Sweet Sticks is a really nice suit. But, also, it's like, like Dorothy's Bornak Miami fashion robe in a suit jacket. But I kind of like that. Like, you know what I mean? Like, the teal and the white.
Yeah, but also, like, it had that kind of, like, paint splatter pattern.
Yeah. I was like if Dorothy's Bonek was woke.
I wouldn't say that. I would just think it was...
I'm just really trying to roll with the Dorothy's Bonek thing.
Yeah, no, you're wrong. And then Carl's phone rings in the hotel. And he answers it with the shaver again. And Tony says...
Called his ass.
Tony says, my favorite... No, I've said like 8 things for my favorite quote, but he said, this morning, while I was brushing my teeth, you were still alive. And then I went to shave my face, and it all ended for you.
Mm-hmm. I was like, he caught on to the fact that you were using the shaver, he
said, Carl, turn the shaver off.
He's like, oh shit, okay.
And then he asks what in the absolute Sam hell that article was about. Because the article Faye sent him was all about
his house. And the
beauty of the house this man lived in. And the copper piping, the Spanish roof. And Tony said...
I got better shit from Homes and Gardens.
No, he said, I thought you had crossed the wire with Better Homes and Gardens. Like, this article was supposed to go there, not to me. And it was... Yep. So then, Carl gets off the phone with Tony and calls Grace's catering service and orders Catherine.
And the way he says, he's like, I'd like to order something warm to my hotel room. I'm like, wow, okay.
I was like... How is Kolchak so familiar with the code words to use?
You mean to tell me you don't think Kolchak is, like...
He's so smooth. He doesn't need to order prostitutes.
True. But in Vegas, he probably... Well, we've seen him, want to set up a video camera thing in a sex massage place in Vegas. So, like, you never fucking know.
Not like that. He's not like that.
True.
But he's also not like that
Right.
either.
True.
So then he kicks Faye out so that Catherine can come because she is going to come early. And then he borrows her lipstick, which I fully don't understand.
No,
Because he uses it to draw a cross on the door.
Maybe so she couldn't leave the.
That's what I was thinking. Because she uses it to draw the cross on the door. And my first thought was, this man's brought his stake and mallet to LA with him, but not the cross.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. He did. He brought the cross. But then he also drew a cross on the door, and I was confused. But Monica's got a point. If he had her trapped in the hotel room and he put the cross in her face, she would just leave. But if there's a cross on the door, then she can't leave.
But then what if she gets ballsy enough and jumps out the fucking window because she can't die anyway if she were to jump out the window?
Then people would see a woman throwing herself out of a window and not dying.
Maybe that'll get them to believe it's a fucking vampire.
So, but then a different prostitute comes because apparently,
She was pre-booked for a football player.
no, she wasn't pre-booked. Grace is a skis and sent Catherine to the football player because she's prettier and the football player is richer.
Oh, yeah.
But so, Catherine goes to the football player. But Kolchak goes to the restaurant and, like, cons Ichabod into telling him where exactly Catherine is by, like, convincing him that he's an accessory to murder. So then he follows Catherine to the football player's house where the absolute creepiest makeout scene in the history of television is happening.
You know when you, like, miss your dog after a really long day and you go... Like that, like if you're watching it, I'm really sorry that you just saw me do that. She was doing this to this guy's face.
No, it was much worse than that. You know when
I can't really kiss right now. My jaw's
I
fucked
understand,
up.
but I'm gonna use words. I don't need to visualize. You know when a baby doesn't have teeth, but they try to start eating a banana for the first time?
That's it.
That's exactly what she was doing to his chin and lower lip.
Like, that was not kissing. That was not making out. That was uncomfortable.
But then the rest of the football team walks in and she just kills them all. Which, like...
I couldn't really tell. I
Yeah.
just thought she was just tossing them around.
Yeah,
like,
it was weird. But also, like...
Then she started to make
That
cat-
sucks for the LA Rams that half their squad just got murdered. Like, they got murked.
And it also doesn't help that... Now, mind you...
That's why they moved back to Detroit, actually.
Shit. Damn it, Mary Kate. No. I was gonna say, this is when we really get to hear her lovely signature. It sounds like a cat hacking on a hairball.
Yeah. It's cute. It's really cute.
And she makes this fucking face. I just want to fucking hit.
Stop smacking the
I'm
table.
sorry. Imagine it's her face.
Then Mr. Feeney / Lieutenant Mateo calls Tony and has him yell at Carl like he's his dad, and it is really funny. And then he tries to kick Kolchak out of the entire city of LA by having his police officer sexually grab Kolchak's tie.
Because he said, at first, like, get this man out of here. And then he was like, and if he doesn't go with you, then you put his tie in the car door and you just drive. So then the police officer grabs, I'm going to use Mary Kate's hair. He grabs the tie like this and then goes, and starts pulling them. I'm like, I didn't know that you were getting that kind of service done out there, sir. But, like, okay, hop off.
So, Kolchak, for the first time in his life, listens to the authorities and is packing his stuff to leave LA. Until he remembers that his accomplice is a real estate agent. And he uses her to find out where the vampire is staying. We learned that, once again, vampires always live in old-ass fucking houses.
That look like a vampire lives in them.
And Kolchak, my note says, goes looking for her. Obviously.
Yep. What else would he do?
And then I don't really have a lot of notes for the rest of it because the rest of the episode is our action sequence.
Yeah.
But basically, Kolchak is climbing around this house and, like, searching for the girl, and then she shows up behind him. She attacks him. He touches her with the cross, which burns her skin, which gives him enough time to run away and set fire to a gigantic hillside cross, and it looks like a KKK event.
Yeah, like it looked haunting. I'm like, yo, that shit's fucked. But I will say, it visually it looked really fucking cool.
Oh, it was stunning in the most evil way possible.
Yeah, and like Kolchak even says, like you could see it from the like one long highway that stretches through there, and it was like a busy highway that you could like see it from.
Also, he had to pay to replace it because apparently it was a real important landmark.
Yep.
Oops.
And
And so he lights the cross on fire. Obviously, this gigantic fire-burning cross incapacitates the vampire, and then he stakes her. But wouldn't you know it, the police get there, as in he's in the
he
middle of...
literally goes like this, looks up, Mateo's right there.
So, once again, Kolchak is charged with murder.
Obviously, it's just like a normal Tuesday.
And, he, doesn't get arrested because the coroner report says that this woman's body has been dead
For 3
years. And rather than deal with the fact that Kolchak was right, they were like, how about you just leave LA?
Yep. Like, imagine that. Like, imagine how you can get away with murder because cops don't want to admit that they're wrong about a supernatural being.
Imagine how you can get away with murder because cops don't want to admit that they're wrong. Full stop.
On that note, let's get into some trivia.
Okay.
Real quick.
Trivia. There are actually, like I said earlier, no goofs, only trivia and a few connections. Actually, I'm going to read the connections first because there's only 3 of them. So the references. Sorry for how choppy this is. I'm just going to be straight up. I don't know how to use the internet. There is a reference to the 1958 movie Horror of Dracula because the hero repels the vampire by overlaying 2 ordinary items to create a cross.
Yeah, I did notice that, and I was very confused. I've never seen that movie, and I was like, why is he holding a fire poker and something else too, and it's actually working?
Well, I mean, if the lipstick works, why
True.
wouldn't the fire poker work?
True, that's very fair.
There's also a reference to the original 1972 Night Stalker movie, the first Kolchak movie. This is unofficially a sequel
To it.
And then...
Because it's supposed to be one of the first vampire's victims that became a vampire.
And then at 22 minutes and 40 seconds, Kolchak drives past an elaborate Hollywood theater marquee for the film Pink Floyd Live at Pompeii.
Which, good for Pink Floyd. You love to see it.
Yeah.
Now onto the trivia.
Although I probably should have just read it from the same page because I have to find it again. Ha ha! I'm doing really badly with technology today. I'm just... You ever just have those days where you forget how to use the internet?
Yes.
So the trivia. This was actually a reworking of a pre-existing script. The original plan had been to set the story in New York, where both Kolchak and Vincenzo had wound up after being kicked out of Seattle. Also, the vampire was going to be Skorzeny, last seen in the original movie, mysteriously back from the dead. Then word arrived that Kolchak had been greenlit for a series, so the story was reworked into its present form.
Which we have talked about that previously.
Yes, so basically that movie that was going to happen, where they were going to be in New York, and Janos was going to be back from the dead, instead of doing that, they said that this was one of the girls that Janos had killed in Vegas. She got reanimated and traveled to LA because she was originally from LA.
Mm-hmm.
Suzanne Charney, who played the vampire, does not speak throughout the entire episode with the exception of her hissing at her potential victims.
Yep. That's definitely trivia.
Kolchak's tape recorder appears to be a Grundig portable. I don't know what that means.
Also, there's a scene when he goes to the football player's house where his tape recorder and camera are, like, destroyed and melted. So now I'm just in the hopes that Kolchak will finally get a new camera that actually works.
Probably not. They will probably never talk about it again.
Fair.
The house that the real estate agent is showing at the beginning, where the guru lived, happens to be Ken Franklin's house in Columbo, Murder by the Book. Love that episode. It also was used in Columbo, The Most Crucial Game, as well as in a number of other Universal productions, including Quincy M.E. and The Rockford Files.
Nice.
This is the last screen appearance of Betty Endicott. She lived from 1931 to 2007, but after this this TV episode, never acted ever again.
Now, Betty Endicott.
She played the sister who got murdered.
Oh, that's really sad if that's like your last role and you go out.
For a second, when I read that it was her last screen appearance, I was like, oh, it's because she died. But no, she just quit acting. She lived for like 35 years after that. She just was...
I mean, I'd quit acting after having to get killed by her. Sorry, I really don't like her vampire.
The estate where the vampire hides at the end of the episode is also the location of the court estates in the Norlis tapes, which is also a Dan Curtis production.
Never seen it. Couldn't tell you the
either.
first thing about it.
Simon Oakland and Larry Storch, Simon Oakland is Tony, Larry Storch is the Swede, had previously worked together as the villainous foreign agents in Who Was That Lady in 1960. Trivia was not as exciting today because I didn't really know.
Many of the things that the trivia was about.
Yes. But no, I want to look up this Betty Endicott and see if we can figure out why she quit acting. Because I just like to know things. She's probably not very famous. No offense. Her filmography. Yeah, oh, she was only in 7 things. Oh, that trivia is incorrect. Because she was apparently in 2 episodes of Little House on the Prairie in the late 70s, which would have been after.
Yeah.
So. But she was most famous for being in Bonanza.
Anyway,
That
was this week's episode of Death and Aliens, talking about Kolchak the Vampire. Episode 4?
Yes. Is that your neck?
No, it's my mouth. That went.
No, I heard a cracking noise when you
that was
turned your
probably
head.
my head.
Oh, wow.
I need to see a chiropractor.
I'm seeing mine on Tuesday.
Lucky ass.
Yeah, so you can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Death and Aliens. Too many short words.
Yeah.
You can follow me at EMKAY_superstar.
And you can follow me on Instagram at monica.lin_ and on Twitter at mon_lin_.
And we will see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.